All right, we are now recording, guys. All right, so thank you guys for joining us today. Today's today's Zoom meeting is going to be when to bug out and where, right? So, and I shouldn't have said when to bug out. It should more like be like the next time to bug out after the initial. Every disaster that happens, you get a warning, right? You get a warning, and the warning is to they tell you to leave, they tell you to evacuate, they tell you, listen, this storm's going to be bad, this hurricane's going to be bad, this blizzard, if it's a blizzard, they normally tell you to stay indoors. If you live in a coastal area and there's a hurricane, they're telling you to leave. So there's a lot of warning signs we get for the initial bug out. Now, if it's some shit hits the fan event, a lot of those we see coming, right? So if, let's say, the bottom dropped out of the economy, we all know that it's going to get bad and we need to bounce, basically. But if it's something like a curveball, like an asteroid out of space, an asteroid that's big enough to cramp our style, but not destroy the entire planet, but enough to knock out most of the population, you definitely want to you definitely want to start thinking about leaving like almost immediately, especially in a city like New York. If there is a food collapse, a complete food collapse chain, you definitely want to start leaving when you initially hear that. So your first time to leave is that initial onset of whatever disaster might happen, right? That's short of an earthquake. Now, an earthquake, you're not going to be able to get out in time. You're going to be in the middle of that shit. And then after the earthquake quells, then you're going to bounce. So after the initial onset, there is a grace period where some people will stay. Some people will stay and ride it out and see where it's going to go. After that, once you start seeing the deterioration in whatever environment you're in, whether you're in a city or a town, you're going to want to start thinking, all right, maybe we should start getting the fuck out of here. And then that's your next time to leave. Now, that time period, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 6 months. No one really knows, right? There are too many prepper channels out there that are going to tell you, if you don't leave immediately and you stay during that grace period could be a year. You don't know. We had a lot of people leave during COVID, right? A lot of people bugged out during COVID for something that didn't need to be fucking, you didn't need to run out on. And that was in my opinion. And then those people came back. Uh, when you're leaving during a disaster scenario, you have to read the climate of the environment you're in. Again, whether it's a city or a town, you just don't pack your family up and then hit the road. You got to make sure that one, the road is clear for you to hit. Secondly, that it's safe. Safety's first, then you check the clear. Right now, if you live in a city like New York, you might have roving gangs. You might have people blocking the streets. So if you are in a car, for example, and you're driving down fucking Broadway and they have the street blocked off, well, shit. I mean, your initial response is to turn around and go the other way. Um, but again, the timetable starts after the initial onset. So if you stayed and now you're in that grace period, the clock is ticking because gangs could be setting up roadblocks. Uh, Bad guys could be setting up roadblocks. Bad guys could be setting up traps for you. So you have to think of that in those terms of when you're going to get out of here. Now, I wouldn't wait it out a year. I wouldn't sit in my apartment knowing that it's going to get bad. It's going to get exponentially bad over time. I wouldn't sit in my home and be like hoping that it gets better. For example, the road. The character on the road, the man and the boy, they stayed in their home for as long as they could, which is something like what, 8 years or 7 to 8 years or whatever it was. And they waited too long. Now, that being said, we don't know, some people know exactly what happened. I'm not sure of what happened. It was some kind of apocalyptic event in the book, and they waited too long until they ran out of food. Then they started hitting the road. But by then, what was it? Something like 95% of the population died off. So it was a more quieter world. But again, depends on the disaster, is going to dictate what's out there waiting for you, right? If we have another pandemic that has a higher mortality rate, we might have less people on the road to contend with, but you're still going to run into people on this road. So keep that in mind. As far as where to bug out, you got to look at that ahead of time, right? That strategic relocation book that Yona had just showed us, that is a great book to look into, right? Where you're going to place yourself is normally going to be a minimum 3 hours of driving your car from the nearest city or town, preferably from the nearest city. Towns, you could probably do 2 hours driving. So you pretty much got to be in the middle of nowhere. But you also got to entertain your skill set, your skill level, because if you are not able to live completely on your own, then you might not want to be that far away from the town, especially if you're not able to defend yourself as well. You don't want to be that far from town. But now if you're ready to rock and roll and you can absolutely protect yourself, then maybe you want to be that far away. So those are things to think about. Nothing's an absolute, guys. Nothing is like, some people like, I want to live in the middle of the woods by myself. Okay, and what if you run into trouble? What if you trip and fall and break your ankle, right? Now you're fucking, 3 hours from the nearest civilization and you're in the woods by yourself. You got to think about these things. If you're with the community, you can pull that off. If you are by yourself or just your family, you might not want to do that. Might not. It's, again, guys, it's all up to your preference. That's the other thing. Do you want to live that far away from people? Some people want to live that far away. Some people want to live that far away now. Forget about the apocalypse. They just don't want to deal with people and their bullshit and their idiocracy. So where would you move? That book will help guide you in the direction of where you want to go. They even break down gun laws and things like that too. It's like which states have the best gun laws, or which states have the best farming, which states have the best land, not land, best area for like not contending with hurricanes, tornadoes, and things like that. So again, great book to look into. It will absolutely guide you in the right direction of where you want to go. I would absolutely look into communities myself. I would look into getting with communities, because doing this shit alone is not it's not feasible. And if anybody remembered I Am Legend, when he was by himself and he became dysfunctional with people, right? Because he had a dog and he was just, people can only last so long by themselves until they start breaking down mentally. There are a few people, very few on this planet, that can deal with being on their own for probably their entire life. But that's a small percentage. The large percentage of us need people to interact with, at the very least. Or you make yourself a ball caller Wilson and you talk to that. There is that option. But with that, guys, bugging out is not an easy task. A lot of people, I don't know if a lot of YouTubers are making it look easy, but it's not an easy task. It's probably going to be the most painful task you can absolutely try to do, whether you're in a car or on feet, right? Just because you're in a car is going to make it better, but being on foot is going to make it absolutely stressful. So you're going to be stressed driving the car, because you're probably going to be searching the road, scanning the road left and right, looking for blockades, creeping up slowly on corners, worrying about who's going to take a shot at you when you start slowing down. Like, it's all of these things that start to stress your body out, right? If you're walking, you're going to be like, shit, how much longer to get to point A, or point B rather, sorry, or point C? What about the cache that's in the middle of the woods? Should we divert and go get that? A lot of stress is involved in bugging out, guys. So bugging out is not as easy as one would think. It's not throwing a pack on your back that you never put on your back ever since you built it, and then walking. It's a lot harder than that. A lot of stresses to go along with it, especially if you have family. If you're by yourself, it's probably less stressful. With family, it's probably like a nightmare, nothing short of a nightmare. Anna, the book I'm referring to is Strategic Locations. Let me pull it up now, unless somebody else wants to step in and save me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have that. I thought when you were talking about a guy in a cabin, is that in strategic relocation? I missed that somewhere. You were talking about a tale of a father and son waiting 8 years. Is that a true story?
Oh no, that was the road. I think it was 8 years, like whatever it was. It was they were in a cabin or home for a long period of time, waiting for whatever the fuck they were waiting for.
Okay. All
Right.
right. I appreciate it. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
the road. Read the book. The book was excellent.
Well, yeah, it's called On the Road.
No, no, it's called The Road.
The Road.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
yeah. And if guys, if none of you have seen that movie, that's like a prepper basic movie, The Road. It's probably the Bible. I'm sorry, it's probably the Bible to bugging out movies because there's a lot of do's and there's a lot of don'ts. One of the don'ts in that movie was having a shopping cart that makes noise that you can probably hear half a mile or so out, being that the world was a lot more quieter with the disaster that happened. But there's a lot of do's in that book, right? Setting up shelter, keeping a low flame when you're bugging out and moving location to location. There's even a better bug out movie actually that was a little more accurate, which I like. It was called Light of My Life with Casey Affleck. Very, very good movie in general. But as far as bug outs goes, that was probably one of the best realistic movies you'll ever see. And the fight scene at the end was holy shit. It was the spot on fight scene. It was possibly one of the best apocalyptic movies you've ever read. Go ahead, Mike.
So our weekend in the woods, if that taught me anything, it's that with my family in tow, that never would have happened. I don't know that I could pack enough gear in poor weather conditions to be able to keep everybody warm in those kind of conditions. It was pretty cold, man. The wind chill was like -12, -14. And, with the wife and kids there, it really solidified that I need to be moving structure to structure, that I need a real plan in place, and I have to have a place to go. They're not going to be able to hack it out in something like that. You and me, that's a different story. Like you said, if you're on your own, it removes a lot of stress. But the whole time we were out there, I was just thinking to myself, man, the wife would never be able to do this. My daughter would not be out here for very long. I'd have to find a structure to be able to take them to, especially something heated if it was a grid down scenario. So when you guys are planning your bug out, I would definitely plan around, if you can get from structure to structure, all the better. The less you have to use your survival instincts and your survival gear, the better. And push on to the next structure that you can get to. Make friends along your route. And it takes a lot of planning, guys, a lot of planning and a lot of practice too. So don't think you can just put a plan in place and go. Practice that route, take it a few times, take some back roads off of those roads, get lost and find out your area that you're headed to. That's going to be vital when the chips are down, to know the area that you're headed to. You don't want to go in blind.
Exactly. And it's funny that he said that because, like as much as, the kids, when they were younger, they were out a lot. Now they want nothing to do with the outdoors. Yeah, they wouldn't hack this cold. They would pretty much, they would die. Just because, and listen, keeping ourselves warm and stuff like that would be the easy part, because once you get everybody in a tent, you bundled up, they would be fine. But the stresses of them us being stressed out because they're not up to par is the bigger issue. Like my son, he might be able to hack it. For my daughter, no way, no way. And my wife, she's in the middle. If she knew we were if any person or adult knew that they were in a all chips are down, oh shit moment, they would rise to the occasion. But that's probably not where you want your family to rise to the occasion, not during bug out. But he's right. It was fucking cold. It was, and you know what? I was fine. Once I got in the hammock, once I got in the tent, we were pretty good. But What if we had other people with us, you know? And that weekend, guys, next year, we'll be doing weekends like that. We'll be doing fucking, freeze your ass off weekends. And people have to be ready for it. And I will tell you this much, guys, if you guys come to one of these weekends and you're not prepared, you are going home. That's all there is to it. I'm not interested in, dragging somebody's corpse out of the fucking woods because you guys froze to death and didn't say anything, or didn't want to say anything. Not interested in doing any of that shit. So,
Right. We don't break the number one rule of survival. We don't die.
Yes, don't die. That's exactly it.
Don't die.
Right? Fucks up my track record if you die. But that's not the point. Listen, it's for safety reasons. And I've had people come out with me before, not even in wintertime, just have come out with us before and just, man, what the fuck were they thinking? That kind of shit. And it was just basic level shit. So the winter time is more challenging, but if you have the right gear and you have the right attitude, you'll be fine. Those are the two things that go hand in hand: attitude and gear. Gear is important in the winter time. Gear is not so much important during spring and summer. You can get away with a lot of cheap shit and a lot of cheap things spring and summer, but come fall and winter, you need correct gear to handle this shit. Now, Mike, I was just thinking about what you just said about warm shelter, hot tents. Hot tents are a pain in the ass to break down, travel, build up, but hot tents might keep your family warm when you're moving from, area to area, as long as you're getting to a point B.
Exactly. And you got to have the budget to be able to afford something like that. I'm going to try a few different methods here in the near future. Okay. And see if I can do some sort of a hot tent with just a tarp and as little money as I can put into it. I want to show folks that you can buy all this stuff and do it high end. I have no gear and a bad attitude. That's great. But I'm going to try and build something on the cheap and see if I can keep myself just as warm as I can with spending all the money on something like that. But like you said, in this kind of weather, the cold like this, the gear really matters. It really does.
Well, I tell you just one tip: look at the firebox, or what's it called, the bushcraft stove. Shit, the bushcraft stove is the European one, but the firebox, you can absolutely set it up in a fashion where you keep the flame low, like your foyer area of your tent. It'll heat up your tent if you leave the door open. So that's
perfect.
That's one little method that you can use.
So one thing I am going to pack with me for these hot tent adventures, they're pretty cheap. You go to the hardware store and pick them up like $17, carbon monoxide detector. The last thing you want to do is poison yourself in one of these tents and to spend $17 for a peace of mind. That alarm starts going off, open the vents, get out of there, breathe, and then readdress your situation and see where you're leaking into your sleeping quarters. So definitely something to keep in mind.
It's not a bad idea, because I had a situation where I was building carbon monoxide because I was burning a candle and the candle like gets shifted and started burning the glass, and smoke started building up, and I woke up with a headache and coughing, and I was like, and I looked up, I was like, son of a bitch. So in the middle of the winter, I had to crack both doors open, right, the foyer and the tent, to air it out, and it took only like 2 minutes or whatever it was, but then all the heat went out as well. But whatever.
Yeah. Carbon monoxide works really fast, and it's a heavy gas, so it's going to settle on the floor with you if you're in a tent or something like that. So just plug a couple batteries in it, throw it on the ground inside your shelter, and know that you're going to wake up in the morning.
Right. And so to mitigate that too, with the firebox, you leave a crack in the what you call it? Sorry, the zipper top. Take a little stick, like a small stick, you put it at the top, and you let that go up. And plus, there's a gap on the ground as well, so the carbon monoxide, should
escape.
Should escape from the bottom. But if you seal it up completely, you might have a bit of a problem. Remember, heat travels up, carbon monoxide travels down. So keep that. All right. So with that, guys, what time is it? All right, we got a couple minutes. Like I said, we're going to try to keep these to an hour. I have another one of these to do at 7 o'clock. There's way more people later tonight. I might record that as well and see which one I like, and whichever one I like, that's the one that's going to go up on the YouTube channel. Now, with that, guys, do me a favor. You guys have to also ask some questions. I feel like a dick talking and then no questions are being asked, because at least if I know you guys are asking questions, you're learning something. You can ask myself, you can ask Mike, you can ask Anna, she knows her shit. Daniel, who's on here somewhere, he knows his shit. So you can ask questions, even if it's not regarding to what we are talking about. Even Karen, actually, you can also ask Karen questions, especially when it comes to alternative medicines and or remedies. She's really good with that stuff. But with that, guys, bugging out is going to be a hard ass task. Now, this is not to scare you guys away from bugging out. This is to scare you guys into, and I hate to use that word scare you guys, but to scare you guys into being tougher and figuring out the holes in your plan. Because you have to automatically not automatically, you should figure out the holes in your plan. You should find them and figure that shit out, so that when you have to bug out, it can goes off uh, without a hitch, or less of a hitch, rather. Sorry. Daniel, go ahead.
Oh, Jason, so you talked about how community or a group of people is really important to survival and beyond the first few days. And actually, that's one of the biggest problems, like the elephant in the room, is that oftentimes preppers, we're sort of independent types and we got, egos and our own ways of doing things. But that's counterproductive for creating community. And that's the number one issue. Doesn't matter what gear you have, doesn't matter where you are. Now, if you don't have a community, we're not going to make it. Since it's such a big issue, and it's not technical, it's not guns, beans, or bullets, and yet it's the number one critical thing. And I don't know how to get my hands around it or my brain around it. It's like, how do you help other people become more sociable for survival? Not socialist, but just more sociable.
Well, that's the thing. That's up to the individual person. I mean, like, listen, you get an asshole to the group, and he's whatever. He's 60 years old and he's an asshole. He's an asshole. You're not gonna make that asshole change after 60 years of being a dick. Does that mean you kick him out of the group? No. But do you try to have him understand that it's not his world and that he's amongst other people that might need his help? That could break that asshole barrier wall or whatever it is. It's the sociable thing. It's like the individual person. um Again, man, you've seen prepper groups, including this one, break apart because of social differences, right? And in some groups, no matter what people have done, other people are not going to be satisfied. So that's actually a hard one to answer, Daniel, because go ahead, Mike.
So that's kind of why I host the events. And I try to bring people in from everywhere. Even if I don't get along with everybody there, it doesn't mean that Jason's not going to get along with them or Anna's not going to get along with them. People will kind of click together in their own little thing. And I just try to provide an environment where people can get together and talk and discuss things and find your like-minded people, because we're all kind of like-minded, but we all have our own quirks and ticks. And some of us will jive better with others. And it's all about finding your tribe.
And that's that. He answered it. There you go. That's pretty much the basics, the basis of that. It's a hard what you call it to be, man. I'm like, you try, and that's the other thing too. Like, for example, this group, right? You try to appease so many people to a point where I took the fuck it stance for a long time, and that was probably the wrong approach on my part. Now learning that, I'm opening the floor to more people having more ideas. Listen, even if the idea is stupid, and yes, there are some stupid ass ideas out there, I will entertain it. And sometimes I'll entertain it just to prove them wrong. Not because I know it's going to work, because I know it's going to fail, and I just have to be open to it. Listen, a lot of groups out there have fucking crumbled because of different ideologies, which, listen, there was a group out in Long Island, man. They had one of the worst prepper breakups I've ever seen. And it was bad, it was bad. And then they splintered off into like 2, 3 different groups because they couldn't get on the same page as to just prepping. One side of the group wanted to go tactical, the other side of the group wanted to do tactical and outdoor camping, another group wanted to just focus on farming. And I'm like, yo, you can do it all. You just guys have to do it, one at a time. You guys can
That's a
do
big thing. You need all those pieces.
yeah, especially if you're going to run a community, right? One can't exist without the other. You need the tactical training to protect your farm, right?
Exactly.
Right. It's not just fucking shooting at the bad guy because he popped his head from behind your fence. You got to learn how to fucking outmaneuver those dudes when they're coming to you. You got to be more offensive than defensive. If you're caught in a defensive position, then you have to know how to attack from the defensive position. But 9 times out of 10, you want to be on the attack, because that's the one thing that's going to take those people by surprise, is you fucking moving on them and not the other way around. But again, that's tactical training down the line for another time. We will be entertaining that as soon as Mike and I figure out how to go about it. I think Mike's more, he's more in tune to that. So I'd absolutely ask him how to go about it. Now, why you were asking about directions to bug out in. Listen, most people, depending on what happens, is the direction they're going to travel. So if it's a shit the fan scenario, but it's in the wintertime, people are going to travel south, right? If it's in the summertime and people are hot and bothered, they're probably going to travel north, but not all the way north, like Maine and fucking Massachusetts and shit like that. They're probably going to hit like this area, Virginia area. So it all depends on what happens, is the direction people are going to go in. If it's a tsunami, you're going to go west. You're not going to go towards the ocean, right? So it all depends on what happens, and depends on the brain. I would like to go northwest or just west in general. I wouldn't want to go south because too many people be traveling down that direction. West would be the ideal, but it would be to a set location or area that I know I'm going to. I'm not just going to wander off fucking left. That's the other thing too, guys. You have to know where you're going to go. You
Yep,
do
familiarity.
right. You do not want to just fucking bug out and fuck it, I'm gone and be out of here. You don't want to do that. You definitely want to have a plan of where you're going to go. Okay, can you talk about what a new prepper can do weekly, develop skills and endurance? Okay, so why ask, can you talk about what new preppers can do on a weekly basis to develop skills and endurance needed in the bug out, in the event of a bug out? Well, endurance, you need to do a lot of walking. You need to do a lot of walking with a backpack. Put some weight in that backpack. First, just walk. Just walk for 20, 30 minutes. Don't put anything in back. See how your knees, your ankles, your hips feel, your lower back. See how that feels. Then you're also acclimating your body to doing something it hasn't done in a long time. Then you up it about a week or two later, you'll up and you put a backpack on your back and you put some shit in it, like a water bottle and snacks or whatever. That's some weight. Now your body, your core is going to be like, what the fuck is this? And you're going to do the same walk, and your body's going to acclimate, and your core is going to strengthen itself as you do that over time. But what core strength, you have to add a little bit of weight at a time. You can't just dump a 50-pound plate in your back and start walking. Some of us can do it, but most people who have never done it shouldn't do it. If that makes any sense. He said, what should be in your bug out bag for an urban area? That is a long list of shit for another day, because we're about to end this in a couple of minutes. But for an urban area, listen, for an urban area, I wish I could tell you guys to get firearms, but that would absolutely save your ass in an urban area. Then you would absolutely need a tent, sleeping bag, food and water, right?
Silcock key.
And right, a who?
Silcock key.
Silcock.
That's something I would add to an urban bug out bag, because up here we're not going to need those, but in a city area,
you might.
I would definitely add a 4-way Silcock key.
4-way Silcock key, and I don't even have one of those things. And I was I'm gonna get one this year, and I never get it. But also, you can also introduce new shit to your preps. Like a lot of people missing out solar panels. I tell people collapsible solar panels to keep your phone and shit charged if you're bugging out in if society's still somewhat functioning, but you got to get out of the area, I would go with the foldable solar panel as well. You want to go with water filtration system of some kind. These are things, guys, that you're going to absolutely need when you're bugging out, especially in an urban environment. Don't drink salt water. Don't drink anything yellow. Stay away from that. And that's pretty much it. But there's more to it. Tina Weiss says, a what key? Silcock. How do you spell that? She wrote it in.
Silcock, Silcock key. You can buy them at Lowe's.
Okay.
Yeah, and the last time I bought one, I think it was about $11, and that was a Cobalt 4-way Silcock key. What they do is they open the garden hose spigots that you guys have in the city. You'll see a plate on the wall. It's either brass or stainless steel, and
Right.
it'll probably say water on it. One of those wrenches will open that door. The other one will open that faucet. Most multi-story buildings, you'll have some water pressure, even if the water is off because of the height of the building. So at a low point, you may be able to get yourself some clean potable water in your container via that Silcock key, even if the grid is down.
Very good. Thank you. Because I took it for granted opening hydrants and shit with the hydrant wrench and shit like that. And a hydrant wrench, guys, is super fucking heavy. So you don't want to do that. What about your pets? It depends on your pet. If you have a cat, fucking kill it. If you have a dog, take it with you. That's how I look at it. I'm just kidding about the killing of the cat. But you don't want to take something that's going to be completely reliant on you to carry it around like a cat. Dogs, they'll walk with you the entire distance. Smaller dogs, you do have to carry them at times. Cats, I don't know. I've never walked a cat outside, so I wouldn't know where to go with that. And Karen, we're still gonna do the high building New York City walking event. I just got to plan it a little better. So go ahead. Your mic.
Sorry, that was so stupid about the pets. There are actually a lot of good websites from nonprofits, that support good animal care. They give you a whole list and a lot of important information about actually prepping for your pet. So I would refer you to those because they're really actually pretty terrific for pet owners. Thanks.
They are. If you're talking about bugging out with your pet, that's a different ballgame. Someone said, "Oh, I love my cat." Yeah, listen, I get it, but if you're bugging out,
that's what these websites are about. They give information about bugging out and stuff. And I actually read, some academic research on prepping, for your animals, and it was based on the fact that, taking a look at the South and that a lot of pet abandonment during emergencies and trying to avoid that from happening.
right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge problem with what was it, Katrina? They saw a huge fucking problem with people leaving their pets behind. And listen, if you have a pet and your pet's part of the family, you better bring it with you. It's that simple. I don't know how people decide, oh shit, I'm leaving my dog behind. I get the fuck out of here. I'm like, I don't understand that thinking. So we have like a bug out bag for my dog. Nice little, it looks like a little saddle. If you're not a saddle, a satchel for a dog. But yeah, so anyway, that's where my dog, because he's a bigger dog and he can walk for a long time, we have a little pack for him. So again, you got
so they can help you carry some of your stuff. It's very important not to overload a dog. They I think it's like 10% of their body weight they can carry safely without doing any damage to them.
right.
So it depends upon what your dog weighs. I have some vests for my dogs that carry like Molly gear, and they're definitely going to have to carry their own food and water. So water is not such a big thing. Being where I live, there's lakes and streams everywhere, and they can drink from just about anything. So it's the food that they'll have to pack, and I think they'll be fat on squirrels come the end of the world. So.
Well, that being said, yeah, my dog, he has like I said, he has his own pack. Hold on. Shit. Sorry. He has his own pack. So we have to not we have to, but he carries all his shit. Hit the water, he carries some of it, but not much. He carries his own medical kit and things like that. But yes, your dogs can absolutely help you in that aspect. If you live in, you know, snow country or something and you got one of those sled dogs, you're in. But you still have to train your dog to carry that pack, whatever it is. If you don't put that pack on your dog and you decide the shit hits the fan and now here we are and you put this pack in your back, he's going to try to kick that thing off of him half the times. So you have to train him to work with it. All right, guys. So other than that, let's end it here. We're going to pick up. Now we're going to pick up again later, but I'll be doing this again later at 7 o'clock tonight, 1900 hours tonight. That was poor planning on my half because I didn't know about the Super Bowl. Or at least I forgot about the date. So with that, guys, Jesus, I shouldn't have let this person in. Anyway, with that, Sprang, I know you just jumped in here. We'll be doing this again at 7 o'clock tonight. That's 1900 hours tonight. So you can catch us then later tonight. But yeah, I forgot about the Super Bowl. Shame on me. But again, guys, other than that, thank you for joining me today. Mike, thank you for helping out.
Not a problem.
And Daniel, thank you for helping out as well. Thank you for the questions. And I will see some of you guys later tonight. And if not, I'll see you guys next month. All right,
Great
guys?
chat, guys. Thank you.
All right. Yo, Sprang, do me a favor. 7 o'clock tonight, if you don't mind joining in then.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just remember, thank you so much.
No
Have a
problem.
good evening, guys.
Later.
All right.
Thank you.